Good morning and welcome to the fourth Creative Recharge event. I'm Ryan Mayton and today we have a very exciting lineup for you. We've got our amazing friend Kevin Butler. I'm going to first hand this off to Jason, and Jason will tell you a little bit more about Kevin.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining our fourth Creative Recharge. We've got Kevin Butler today, a senior ergonomist with Steelcase. Kevin brings a ton of energy in everything that he does, and so we're looking forward to him bringing that with us today, especially with this gloomy weather we've got outside here. We're going to cover a wide variety of topics, from working from home, best ergonomics from working from home, physical and mental well-being. So let's get started. So Kevin, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me. It's so good to see your faces. It's been a while.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kevin, first and foremost, we are hearing in the news, and as everyone's getting ready to go back to the office, is it still relevant to think about how do we best work from home? Does that even matter anymore as we all go back to the office?
I feel like you hacked my computer and you looked at all my emails. So here's the deal with working from home is a few things, and I'm gonna do my very best to leave you guys with some not tactical but practical things, right? So some key points. I'll embellish and I'll fill in some blanks and hopefully give you guys something to chew on and ask questions about. But work from home, if somebody says that to me, I would finish that sentence with "is here to stay." So here's the deal: is early on, like a month ago, I was talking to some of our executive team, and we were doing a ton of benchmarking. And what was interesting was every senior facilities or real estate person we talked to was telling us that their people were clamoring to get back to work, get back to the office. Right? They sorely missed that. Yes, they missed the social connection, but they were going absolutely bananas over where to work and what to do and all these different things. So it was kind of like this immediate reaction of I gotta go, I gotta get out of here kind of thing. So we knew that there was going to be relevance again for the office. But what's interesting is that as we get closer to things opening up and different states and regions doing different things, but in general, people kind of getting back to or re-emerging into the work environment, we're finding out that some people are afraid, still anxious about it, rightfully so in some cases. But the other piece of it is that organizations are telling some people hey, it's okay not to come back until January. And we have some organizations already, and you guys may be in a region where this is happening, where some companies are saying you don't ever have to come back if you don't want to. So that tells me that yes, there's relevance in the workplace, but there is always going to be relevance for work at home from this day forward. And then to layer on top of that, two things. Number one is Steelcase is working feverishly. I have no idea what our competitors are doing, quite frankly, because I have been grindstone, head down, blowing information up as much as I possibly can. But Steelcase is reverted so many resources to trying to figure out how do we offer people things that they can get immediately for their home. So we're working a ton, and I don't think that we would do. I know that we wouldn't do that unless we were committed to the idea that work from home is here to stay. And then the other piece of it is, and you guys, the folks that are listening, may work for organizations like this, and there's no shame in this, is that organizations in some cases or many cases have no idea what they're doing. Examples that I've been given or that I've been a part of is companies want to, they want very badly to give people information, and they want to launch tech packages. Everybody that works from home gets a monitor, a keyboard, and a mouse. And then right before I'm supposed to integrate with them and do live webinars and all this stuff, they pull the plug. They're like, Kevin, we're not ready yet. We have no idea what we can offer. We don't know if we can afford it. So companies are still figuring that out. So the relevance today is and I hate to say it, but it's more important than it was even 2 months ago. So that is my long-winded answer. And by the way, you're only going to get long-winded answers. Jason, you know me well enough to know that that's the case. But I just want to give everybody some context around why I say what I say. But that's That's the bottom line for work at home, man.
With it still being relevant, I think there's still those of us that are trying to either hack our home offices, trying to figure out if our companies are going to supply stuff for us. And if not, what is the best way to hack our work from home setup at probably, to be honest, a minimal cost if it's going to be on the employee. So
Yeah.
what are the best hacks that you have to optimize that and be as ergonomic as possible?
Yeah, low to no cost, man, is the way I've been operating. The reason why I've been doing that is you just said it, man, is companies are still trying to figure out what are we going to do here, right? Like what's available, what's not. I think the single biggest mistake that a person, right? So let's get down to the granular level, like the person level, a person to person level, which is the stuff that I really care about. Yeah, I care about the economy. Yeah, I care about organizations and profitability and all that stuff, but it really boils down to me trying to take care of people. So if you break it down to people, the worst thing that we all could do is wait, because I've got that one already. It's like, hey, Kevin, these are really good tips or tricks or hacks, as you said, but you know what, in a few months my company is going to step up and do this, this, and this, or something. To assume that's the case, and I'm not making fun of anybody's organization, but to just make that blanket assumption, I think is a mistake, because you may be, number one, a little disappointed. Number two, you may find out that it takes longer than that. And quite frankly, I've got people blowing up my cell phone. If anybody knows me, they know they can get me via text. So like, hey, Kevin, like, hey, this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. We haven't talked in a while, but my shoulders are killing me, or my eyes are killing me, or whatever. So number one, if you're a person listening, don't wait. Number two, home hacks. So here's what you need. And Jason and others, I've actually got 10 YouTube videos that the Steelcase channel has actually published. They haven't published the videos themselves are unlisted, but the playlist is public, and I'll send you guys a link that you can send out as a follow-up for everybody that listens to this either now or at the end or afterwards, so at the recording. But my point to that is that a lot of that is exactly what we're talking about. So I use cushions underneath a chair to raise up a little bit so I can relax my shoulders. I use books to get my screen up and away so that it's now at least an arm's length away and just below eye level. I beg people to buy an external keyboard and mouse. I know it might be on your dime, but I found options on Amazon for like $9, right? I mean, I know their shipping is stretched and strapped right now, but I've seen some pretty inexpensive options. And I mean, this one, I've got a keyboard and a mouse. I mean, they don't even make this keyboard anymore. Like I tried to buy it again and Microsoft's like, nope, we haven't made that for 3 years. It was hiding upstairs in my closet. So like people have stuff lying around. So external keyboard and mouse. And again, the reason for that is we need to make sure that the shoulders are not doing this. They're actually relaxed. We need to make sure that the screen is up and away so the person's not flexed with their neck. And quite frankly, we've got to fix kind of the biggest ergonomic issue with a laptop or a tablet, which is the screen and the keys are attached to each other. We got to detach those, and that's where the external keyboard and mouse comes into play. And I can't forget one of my favorites, which is the sweatshirt. So I use a sweatshirt. I actually fold it up into a rectangle, and I actually put it right behind my back, regardless of the chair that I'm in, assuming the chair's got 4 legs, is wood, and sits in your kitchen or something like that. But I use a sweatshirt to actually add lumbar support as well. So we're talking, what, 15, 20 bucks for a keyboard and mouse total? To get to a pretty comfortable posture. So none of that can be, undone by movement per se. But as far as when somebody says, Kevin, give me the list, that's what I give them. And then I actually add headphones as well. I actually don't play. I listen to podcasts a lot. And yeah, I listen to music. Usually it's contemporary Christian music, believe it or not. But I put my headphones in. And play no music a lot. It's actually what I used to do on the airplanes. I don't know when flying was a thing, but I would put headphones in to make sure that I was kind of like aware of my surroundings, but just to like signal like, hey, I don't want to be spoken to, which sounds kind of snooty, but I would do it anyway. And it works, right? So I actually do that. I have 3 daughters. They're amazing. You couldn't tell I'm in my basement by a window. And I put these things in, and it blocks out a lot of ambient kind of like little side conversations upstairs. But it also signals like, hey, it's like a red light, right? Don't go talk to dad because he's busy. So
within that, those are all great tips. You talked about, I heard you briefly mention movement. So yes, movement's going to move that sweater behind your back and do some other things. And if you stand, now your monitor's not where it needs to be, right? But what's the other important part about movement from a physical well-being standpoint?
Yeah, so movement's interesting because a lot of people are experiencing discomfort sooner than they did before, and maybe it's because of a singular ergonomic deficiency in wherever they're working, right? Like a kitchen or a bar top or whatever the case may be. But what's interesting about movement is I've asked people to try to be even more intentional. So I use the word intentional or deliberate a lot. And what I mean by that is I need people to look at, and I've actually done this on calls where they share their screen, and we literally, I feel like part therapist a lot of times. We go through, I'm a sucker for like helping people feel better. So like I do what's necessary in many cases, right? So I'm like, hey, share your screen. Let's look at your calendar if they're comfortable doing that. And by the way, you find out how transparent or authentic somebody wants to be by asking them to share their calendar, because you'll find out real quick the people that are like, whoa, like that's too far. But I do it anyway. So share their calendar. We look for moments. We look for opportunities for them to literally walk and talk or walk and listen at the same time. So there's tons of chances where it's like, well, I got to be on like 2 webinars back to back. I'm like, well, can't you stream your webinar through your phone, and can't you look at it and walk outside at the same time? And they're like, I guess I could. And I'm like, how often are you going to talk during that webinar? They're like, I'm not, I'm muted. So, and by the way, if anybody is actually walking and watching and listening to this right now, that's amazing. You're like ahead of the curve. But yeah, I find all these opportunities for people to walk. And then sometimes I'll ask them to do things like, email me or text me what you did, or if you did it successfully. So intentional or deliberate are phrases that I use a lot. And then the other piece of it is I give people goals. I try to set a mark for people to hit. So one number or 2 numbers that people are kind of surprised by is if we look at what's called, I guess, the bare minimum, or the the price of entry, for lack of a better way to say that, for steps, we find that somewhere between 6,500 and 7,000 steps is kind of like the price of entry. And I hate to say it, but if you're not getting to that point, steps aren't pointless. Movement isn't pointless, but you have almost no shot of metabolically changing yourself if you cannot at least get to what we call the price of entry. So if people are struggling to get 7,000 steps, I need you to hit that number. Now, the other number, or the range that people ask about, they're like, all right, Kevin, if I want to be defined as a highly active person, what does my step count need to average per day? And the answer there is 13,000. And 4,000 to 5,000 of those steps should be at a higher intensity. So we're talking brisk walk, maybe a jog, maybe a run, whatever it takes. But that 7,000 to 13,000 step mark are the guideposts that I give people. And I'd like to call it inspiration. I'm not sure if people take it that way, because many people are like, you're crazy, I'm never going to get there, whatever there is. But those are the numbers. And if you can be intentional, deliberate, convince yourself that moving more is a better thing, and it is, especially at home, because maybe you have less options to go to, right? You're moving from place to place less, more like escaping. But if you can be deliberate and you can set a number, you'll be on the path.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, as an example, I've living by myself. I meet my neighbor at 5 o'clock every day. We take their dog for a 2-mile walk. Just that human interaction of living by myself, but then also getting out and moving. So I'm with you on that.
Dog?
What's that?
What kind of dog?
It is a Rottweiler.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So that dog can go a little while, not too long.
Yeah. So
he doesn't like me digressing, by the way, in case you guys are listening.
And here's my job: keep you on track.
I refuse not to laugh. I'm sorry.
So physical well-being is obviously super important, and movement's great. And there's different ways to do that. Like you said, if that's walking, running, riding a bike, whatever that may be.
Yep.
Being in week 12 for me personally, and I think a lot of people on this call, of working from home and that desire to get back to work, or maybe you're hitting a rut and just, I'm not into it today. What are ways to stay inspired while you work from home that can keep you motivated, keep you creative and all those types of things, where sometimes it's the mental challenge of kind of getting going for the day or staying motivated?
Yeah, it's a good question. So going into this, I certainly get a lot of, so my background's in biomechanics and physiology, but since joining Steelcase a decade ago, I've been really getting more and more involved in kind of holistic well-being and what does that look like. And, I meditate now more than I ever have. And that was a challenge for somebody like me, because if you can't tell, I am hyperactive on top of hyperactive, and I beg for forgiveness. And it's a battle for me personally. And I know it's a battle for a lot of people, but no matter where you're at, my point there is I've gotten a lot of kind of emotional, cognitive well-being questions. And there's plenty of stuff out there on schedules and breaking the mold and doing things differently, that kind of stuff. But as far as inspiration goes for me, I do a few things. So the one thing I do a lot is, I mentioned before, my family. So I have 3 daughters. I've got an 11-year-old that'll be 12 tomorrow. I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old, excuse me. And they're amazing. They drive me crazy, but they're amazing. All girls, great, awesome. Yeah, anyway, I surround myself with as much of them as I possibly can. So I was joking a little bit to this pre-call. I've got like a Lego ship on my desk that I sort of kind of helped build with one of my daughters. I kind of hijacked that project because I love Legos and I love Star Wars. But I'll often like put pictures up, and I drink out of a mug most days. It's this it's this pretty gnarly purple mug with like a heart on it that my now 6-year-old but like 4-year-old drew and painted and kiln dried. And bottom line is I do everything I can to kind of trick my mind to say, like, to remind myself why I'm doing this, right? So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of that. So surround myself with family is something that I try and if it's not family, it's friends. The other piece of it is books. So I try to read. I'm not the most voracious reader in the universe, but I try to read, and I've got a handful of favorite authors. Like from a physiology or a biomechanics standpoint, I've got Kelly Starrett, who's probably the best PT in the world, who runs one of the most successful gyms out west. He does mobility, daily stuff. The Ready State's his new podcast. Anyway, he's got books that are amazing that I swear by. And a lot of times I take those books. I take books from Tom Rath, who's a dear friend of mine, from David Rock, from a brain or neuroscience standpoint. I'll actually stack my monitor up and I'll put those books underneath it so that when I look down to think, I'm actually staring at these books, which actually I draw pretty considerable inspiration from. So I kind of trick my eyes and my brain to stare at these people that I find absolutely amazing on a pretty regular basis. So books that from people that just blow my hair back. That's another thing. And then the last thing is I use mantras. So I know a lot of people that do this as well. I've learned a lot of mantras from people, but mantras, and yes, they're exactly what they sound like, not in a cult fashion of any sort, but words or phrases that you repeat over and over and over again to basically keep you locked in, right? Whether that's locked in from a work standpoint, whether that's locked in from a physical exertion standpoint, a workout standpoint, whether that's locked in emotionally, whatever the case may be. I use a lot. The one I use for movement is move more, move often. Basically, if your body can stay in constant movement, you're gonna feel amazing. So move more, move often is kind of a nice little sing-songy phrase I use. I know some people use my next posture is my best posture. I find that that's great in like headlines, but it's a little bit hard for me to repeat that in my head, and that's just a personal preference. So move more, move often. I actually learned one from Jason, Chris Allison, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so Chris Allison, global account manager for Steelcase. He and I share some similarities, and we were talking about faith. We were talking about physical exercise, and he's like, Kevin, he's like, I get up every morning, I hit the treadmill, and this and that. He's like, some days I just don't want to get up. So, or don't want to do something. So he actually taught me one he uses, and now I use, because I hijacked it, is I can, I will. Just like that, over and over and over again. And actually, my oldest daughter, like 6 years ago, went to summer swim team, and she cried the first day. So I swam in college. I swam for like 20 years. So obviously, I'm like heartbroken that my oldest daughter is like hating swimming the very first day at the easiest level. And we went to the coffee shop. I got her a hot chocolate. I taught her that mantra, and she and I still use it today, like 6 or 7 years later. So I will is like one of my absolute favorites because I stole it from a friend and colleague, and I've reused it, and it's like affected me in a very positive way. And then the last one that I use a lot myself is why not me? Because there's a lot of like, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, whatever. I'm 42. And people can't tell me that I can't beat my marathon PR of 2:46. It's like, yeah, I can. So I train for that. I work to that, like just different stuff, man. But I use mantras. I surround myself with family. And I stare at the books and authors that are the most inspiring to me. So again, long-winded answer. Apologize for that, but that's what I do to keep the engine going, man.
Awesome. Appreciate that. For the rest of the crew here, any burning questions for Kevin while we have him?
I'm an Aries. That wasn't one? Oh, Jason's shaking his head now. If you got, hopefully this is being recorded and everyone can see Jason. My singular focus is, yes, to instill practical knowledge, but also to make him laugh as much as possible. Come on.
You've been very successful at that.
So Kevin, we published the link to the YouTube playlist of your well-being and ergonomics tips from YouTube onto the meeting chat, and also a link to the Ready State.
Oh, you did?
In case anybody is interested in that. Yeah.
Yeah, Kelly Starrett, good guy, man. Ready State's good stuff. Anyway, I fix myself and people that I train with a lot by that using that thing. So good stuff.
I hesitate even giving this opportunity, but Kevin, any parting words?
The only thing that comes to mind at this very moment is the way I end a lot of my videos is just by telling people you can do it. Good luck. Wherever you're at, it's okay. And yeah, whatever you need. I mean, I've done some pretty outlandish things over the last couple of months, all legal, don't worry. Arson's not one of them. But I mean, I've got a lavalier wireless microphone. I filmed videos in my basement. I got the director of Brandcom to approve a playlist from my basement on the Steelcase channel, which if anybody knows Steelcase, we're pretty tight and pretty narrow as far as like, above board and like certain like criteria for video and for visual. And I had a whole team of people cringing when I got that approval, but it's just to show that we'll do anything to get people over the hump and get them to a better place. And if anybody listening or watching now or later has any ideas or needs any help, I would say reach out. Your team is absolutely amazing. I mean, Creative, Steelcase, I love that building. Can't wait to go back. I love what you guys do. And yeah, here to help, man. That's all I can say. Here to help.
Awesome. Thanks. Scott, you want to go ahead and close us out?
Well, yes, I will. On behalf of Creative and Steelcase, we would like to thank you very, very much for joining us for our Creative Recharge this morning. And thank you. And we will be in touch with you for future events like this. Thank you. Have a great day.